What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
What is going on, guys? It is Christopher here, back in the building with the divisional round predictions for the 2020 NFL season. Yes, and I shouldn't be saying that word. And I promised to a couple of people that I shouldn't say it. However, for the purposes of this video, I still have to say it. Anyways, though, we are in for another cracking weekend of NFL action as we take another step closer to Super Bowl 55 in Tampa Bay. And we've got two cracking games from the AFC and two cracking games from the NFC. But before I get into my prediction, I'm going to give a rundown of last week's results, because game one from the AFC side, because as always, I'm going to start off with what happened on the AFC before I move on to the NFC. And the Colts fell short to the Buffalo Bills, but the Bills came out 27-24 winners. However, it did have to be said, the Colts left a couple of points out on the field at the end of the game, including a missed field goal, which arguably could have sent the game to overtime had that been converted. However, the Bills survived another late Hail Mary, unlike when they played the Cardinals earlier this season, and they advanced to the AFC Divisional round. Next up, although it was the Sunday night game on NBC, however, the Pittsburgh Steelers crumbled. Well, they saw their season crumble, and they lost to their division rivals, the Cleveland Browns, who managed to get their first playoff win since 1994. How impressive is that? However, despite the fact that Kevin Stefanski was not on the sideline for the Cleveland Browns, the fact is the Browns managed to score an impressive 4 touchdowns, well, 28 points, practically speaking, but they scored 28 points in that first quarter alone, which pretty much sealed the deal and kicked the Steelers out of the playoffs in the process. However, let's not forget to mention that on the very first play of the game, that the Steelers botched their snap and saw a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and then it pretty much just went downhill for the Steelers. However, the Browns came out 48-37 winners, as I mentioned, and Lamar has ended his playoff hoodoo. And I shouldn't be biased, but I'm happy for him in the sense that, look, all the consistent questions about, oh, is he a big game player at all? Well, he certainly put those doubts to bed. However, even though he has another task at hand this weekend, he has still managed to get over the line and beat the Tennessee Titans, and a very good Tennessee Titans side, by the way. Let's not forget that. But Ravens won 2013, and now let's move on to the NFC games, where the Saints showed very impressive defense against, even though it has to be said, a very hapless Chicago Bears side. They won 21-9 at the Superdome. In the other games of the NFC wildcard round, the Seahawks lost only their third game in their history as a team in the playoffs to the Los Angeles Rams, 30-20. However, noted the fact that Russell Wilson did throw a costly pick six in the first half of the game. However, the Rams move on to another week of playoff football, well, playoff American football, depending on how you want to put it. And last but not least, the Buccaneers came out 31-22 winners, although they did have to work hard for their win against Taylor Henke, who was starting ahead of Alex Smith, who was still deemed not fit to play by Ron Rivera. However, the fact of the matter is a win, and we move on to this week's NFC Divisional round and AFC Divisional round, let's not forget. So, game number 1 of 4, we have the Kansas City Chiefs against the Cleveland Browns, with the Chiefs holding the league's best record at 14-2, even though we all know they lost their last regular season game against the Los Angeles Chargers. However, it's fair to say that they rested many of the starters. Will that affect them going into this game? I think not. However, the key for the Chiefs to win, given that they do have the league's best attack, is to make sure that Mahomes, Kelsey and Hill are firing on all fronts pretty much, and to a lesser extent Tyrann Mathieu in the secondary, keeping them rock solid. However, the Browns, they now have Kevin Stefanski back on the sidelines, as I mentioned, following his self-isolation period from the last 10 days, hence why he could not be at the Steelers game. However, the key man or the key thing for the Browns, if they were to win this game, is the pass rush led by none other than Myles Garrett. If he can get to Mahomes, then it could be an interesting game. However, I think the game will be a shootout for that matter, but the Chiefs, for me, they're going to win 34-31 against a Browns side who will put up a very good fight, let's not forget to say, and I will put some respect on their name. However, I think Baker Mayfield will toss a couple of touchdowns here and there, but I think Mahomes will squeeze out an epic win and advance to another AFC Championship game. Number 2 or 4 is the Buffalo Bills versus the Baltimore Ravens, which also happens to be my game of the week, by the way. However, the Ravens came out 20-13 victors against a very good Tennessee Titans side, I do have to say. Meanwhile, the Bills came out 27-24 winners against the Indianapolis Colts, although they nearly let the game slip away from them. However, moving on to this week, the key for me for the Bills to try and win the game is to rely on that opportunistic defense and try and stop Lamar Jackson, because you never know, if Jackson takes off on the ground, then the Bills, who don't actually have the best run defense in the league, they're average around the mid-table. However, if they can stop Lamar Jackson on the ground, then that could be a key for the Bills to win the game, because bear in mind, let's be realistic, people, that Lamar Jackson isn't an out-and-out passing quarterback in the league as a whole. And speaking of which, the Ravens' key to win the game in my eyes is none other than, well, I'll let you guess for yourselves and pause the video if you so wish to, but surprise, surprise, Lamar Jackson, because he'll need his ground game at its absolute best in order to have a chance for the Ravens to win the game. However, I think at the same time, even though he is a strong player on the ground, I feel as if that he needs to bring more to this air attack, because at the same time he has only passed over 200 yards in 5 of the 16 regular games, and in week 3 against the Kansas City Chiefs he only passed for a very meager 97 yards. So you could argue that Lamar needs to do more than stick on the ground. However, I think the Bills will come out 27-20 winners. Now time for game number 3 of 4. It is the Green Bay Packers versus the Los Angeles Rams. The top scoring NFL attack against the top scoring NFL defense. Well, in terms of points allowed, that is, because the Packers, they lead the way with 31.8 games scored across their 16 regular season games. However, the Rams have allowed a very impressive 18.5 games, with the best pass defense of anybody in the league, conceding 190.7 yards averaged across the season. However, once again, the Packers' hopes will hinge on none other than their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and can he get them back to another Super Bowl for the first time since Super Bowl 45? Well, he'd have to come up against what is arguably a very stacked Rams defense, as we saw last week, because once again, the key for the Rams to win is to lock out the Packers from the end zone and keep doing what they're doing. However, I think attack beats defense, and hopefully I'm not wrong. Fingers crossed, because the Rams have been causing all kinds of carnage in the postseason so far. But for me, Packers to win 24-21. But not least, the New Orleans Saints versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in New Orleans. But could it potentially be Drew Brees' final game if the Saints happen to lose? That I don't know. However, the Saints came off very impressive winners last week, although the scoreline does not suggest that. 21-9, but the defense held up pretty well, I'd say, although the Buccaneers had to fight in order to have a chance of winning the game. However, the equation is simple. It's a case of who scores the most points and who outperforms each other, who performs the best between Brady versus Brees. Chapter 3 of the season. Well, This time I think Brady will go to an NFC Championship game for the first time in his illustrious career. But I don't think that's the end of Breeze. Well, not for this postseason, but I think they'll be back next season if in the event he happens to lose. But Buccaneers for me to win 30-26. And on that note, guys, that is the divisional round predictions. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out my wildcard weekend predictions, then the video is right here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel right here. And until next week, guys, when it is Conference Championship weekend, peace out.